Oh, well, that was hair-raising. Because right after I filmed that, where I saw the bear scat, I can't be sure, but I thought I heard the bear ahead and to the left of where I found that scat. That is something I haven't done in a while. Charge my weapon. Missed it. Oh. I don't normally carry it cocked and locked, but I did coming out of there. Hard cast plus P. And that is why you always carry in the woods. You never know. Now, even amongst the outdoors community and amongst different hunters, if you go around and ask different hunters, you wouldn't believe it, but it is a point of contention as to whether or not to carry a handgun or what most people commonly refer to as a woods gun. People usually fall in two camps. I'll never need it, I don't want to carry the extra weight, and you'll never find me without it. I tend to fall on the latter. You'll never find me in the mountains without it. So I'm going to explain why I think you should carry a handgun whether you're in the woods or the mountains. So reason number one, we'll just go ahead and address the bear in the room. Predators. They come in two varieties, four-legged and two-legged. You're more likely to encounter the four-legged variety of predators, but that doesn't necessarily mean you will never encounter the two-legged variety. Personally, I have had cougar tracks cross mine in the morning, and that'll stand a hair on the back of your neck. And I have had two near encounters with bears. And I have run into at least one sketchy dude that I can recall. So there's your first reason. Predators. And this is especially true if you're by yourself like I typically am. Because that leads me into reason number two. That being, nobody is coming to help you. This, at least 50% of the time, I would say typically 75 to 90% of the time, you will not have cell phone reception in the mountains. And even if you did, and you felt like calling 911, by the time they got out to the area and found you, whatever was going to happen has long since happened. So this does you no good at all. A third reason why you'll never find me in the mountains without one of these is that three deliberately spaced shots with this as a distress signal carries much further than one of these. That doesn't mean you shouldn't carry both. But if as a distress signal, this is much louder. Open carry or conceal carry. Which should you do? I would say in the mountains, open carry. Be armed, let people see that you're armed. Because if you do run into a sketchy dude out there, he's less likely to try something if he can visibly see that you're armed and not defenseless. Second reason is that your gun is much quicker to get to. Should you carry with a round in the chamber? Yes. With a few exceptions, or at least one exception, that would be this handgun right here. If you have a flap holster, then by all means carry a 1911 cocked and locked. That said, if it's not living in a flap holster, I wouldn't carry it cocked and locked. And one of my hunting videos, last muzzleloader, I'm surprised no one called me out on it because I charged my handgun and it wasn't already in that state, condition 1. Now, compared to a handgun like this, striker fired versus a single action hammer fired, this should always be carried with a rounded chamber. However, you definitely need to train with it so you don't accidentally pull the trigger. And have a negligent discharge. Methods of carry. If you're a normal hiker, backpacker, the best place to carry is probably on your waist belt if your pack allows it. It's right here. It's accessible. And not really in the way. And not as an aggressive way of carrying. It's still visible, but it's not as intimidating as a Kydex holster right up front. That might be a consideration if you're carrying in a place where there's lots of recreational hikers. Alternately, if your pack doesn't support attaching a holster, such as this old Camelback of mine, you can always go for a chest holster. Maybe not necessarily this style, but there's all other types of chest holsters you can get that sit up front, or this old World War II style holster right here that is really intended for a 1911. Just an option. Another option is, instead of a chest holster, is to go with a pistol belt. I've done both. I sometimes will still carry underneath my turkey vest in this with the pistol belt. Sometimes I'll carry around camp with a pistol belt. Chest holsters sometimes get in the way, so you can always go for both. The advantage of chest holster or a pistol belt is that your handgun is always on you if you take off your pack. Lastly, we have the huntaholic way of carrying. If you're a serious hunter and you don't mind spending a lot of money on your equipment, this is the way to go. This holster specifically is a Razco holster. I'll talk more about this holster and the other ones that I've used after this segment of this video. Now, I could still mount it right here on this pack, or I could mount another pouch on this side is what I will typically do. The beauty of this particular setup is that I can take my pack off, go on a stalk, and have everything that I need on my person still. I have my I have my glass, rangefinder, GPS, wind direction indicator, and my handgun stays on me. It does not get left behind on my pack. And I have done that, and I'm sure some of you may have too, where you left your handgun on your pack about a half mile down the hill or so. Not ideal. Alright, I'll talk a little bit about the holsters I have here. Now this one I had made a while ago, before I really didn't know well, I know less than I know now. This is actually a very nice holster. It's all leather. At the time, I still had wooden grips on this handgun. But yeah, I was all into wood and leather at the time. Now this type of holster here with a 1911, you do have to carry this thing in condition 3 for obvious reasons. That leads me to the M12 holsters. Both of these are M12 by different manufacturers. This is a MOLLE attachment for an M12 holster. They're typically Alice attachments or clips. These are quite handy. They don't have to specifically fit a pistol belt, but that's what they're intended for. Now the M12 holster, when you get them new, they'll come with this insert to keep the shape. Sorry about that. Now with a 1911, remember these things are specifically designed for Beretta 92 FS or an M9 service pistol. With a it will sort of fit a 1911. This one actually fits my 1911 better than the other one. But there's still a little bit of slop there. Now this one here, I modified. This one is obviously well used. This one, I did buy this holster brand new, but I've modified the end of it to better fit a 1911. This thing locks up really tight. There's no slop in this holster at all. And I have carried this handgun for several years in this holster. Even showing some wear mark right there. Now, I'm upgrading my Woods gun to a Glock 20, and I'll compare these two handguns in a minute. If anyone's curious, yes, it will fit an M12, however, it's a very tight fit. So you can fit a Glock 20 and an M12 holster. That leads me to the Razco holster. These are purpose-made for individual handguns, so they make these to fit specific models. This model, or this particular holster, was obviously made to fit a 1911. There's two different generations of the Razco holster. This is a Gen 1. It's an older design. They typically only make these holsters for most of your name brand vinyl harnesses, like Marsupial, FHF, Fight Hunt Fish, Alaskan Guide Gear. Most of those major brands of vinyl harnesses is what they make these to fit. There is a universal kit that a mounting kit that you can buy separately though. Overall, I don't think they'll fit just any old vinyl holster, but they make these to fit a wide variety. This particular one, it just snaps in right here. These are directional one-way snaps. The carrier for the holster, it has adjustments for the ride height and can't. Now the Gen 2, again this is the Gen 1, the Gen 2 of these have attachments to clip in to your bino shoulder harness. Like most of your name brand bino harnesses, these detach. So if you punch your tag, you make your first trip back to camp, you're obviously not going to need your bino harness anymore. So you can, on the Gen 2 Razco holsters, remove the shoulder straps, attach them directly to your holster, and wear this as a standalone chest rig, and leave the weight of your bino harness back at camp. And I currently have a holster like that on order for this Glock 20, which is replacing the 1911 as my woods gun. Alright, I figured I'd close this video out with this comparison for grins and giggles that probably doesn't need to be done because I think it's pretty obvious. But I'm going to weigh these two handguns, the Glock 20 and the 1911, both with an empty mag in them. Let's just compare the two real quick. I think it's kind of a moot point, but whatever. 2 pounds, 7.4 ounces. £1 pound, 14.5 ounces. He's already lighter. Let's compare the magazines. 8 rounds versus 15 rounds. Heavier, less capacity, lighter, more capacity. I'll just let that speak for itself. Note plus P, not plus P. And if one was to look at the rounds themselves, now from everything I've heard, this is almost equivalent to a 357. So, shot for shot, you get more energy out of a 10mm, you get more capacity in the magazine, and, not counting how much rounds you can carry in it, it's lighter than a 1911. And as a 1911 goes, usually I don't carry it cocked and locked because that is open to grime and grit and getting into the firing pin. Never mind, there's no firing pin block. That's beside the point. All right, that's all I got. Have a good one.